Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Corner. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty corner for all things Formula E. So, the first ever race weekend at Misano has come to a close with round number 2 being completed. And what could be said, it was a good race weekend overall, some dramatic moments on track and off track as well. And this race provided some good entertainment, some good racing, and plenty of parts are needed going into the next round as well, aren't they, at Monaco? Because there was a lot of front wing damage, a lot of rear wing damage, and generally just a lot of chaos and carnage that needs to be repaired, replaced, and a load of springs that need sticking in the bin. That's for sure, isn't it? But yeah, overall, a solid debut for Misano for Formula E. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points. They're sometimes an offer some drivers to do something extra special during a race, and on the very rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers to do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. So, let's take a look at the current scoreboard then. Going into this round, it's on the screen now for you to take a look at and have a look and see where your favourite driver is right now. And can you see them going up? Can you see them going down? There was a hell of a lot to play for this race. Almost at the halfway stage of the season. And it's fair to say that the cream has certainly started to rise to the top. Not just in terms of this championship, but also the overall championship in Formula E as well. But briefly before we kick things off, I'm just going to apologise if you can hear any noises that are untoward during the video. We're currently having a thunderstorm outside, and yeah, that's not going to go away anytime soon, so I'm trying my best, but if you see any sudden flashes of light or clatters of thunder, that's what that is. And I'm going to try and make this video as quickly as possible because I'm currently filming at 8 o'clock Monday evening, and this is obviously going up tomorrow at 6 PM. So when you're watching it, I've had less than 24 hours to record, edit, upload. Yeah, I'm in for a late shift. It's been a busy old weekend, but nonetheless, I'm not going to try and skimp over any details. I'm just going to try and get it short, sweet, to the point, like most other people can do in the comments section, but it takes me 40 minutes to rant about it. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? So without further ado, let's kick things off with the race winner, Pascal Verline in the Porsche, and he got to keep it. Can you believe it, eh? Can you believe it? So, of course, Pascal Verline, yesterday's race, he smashed his front wing off on the back of Jev, cost himself a potential podium there, but that podium position meant he would have been chucked out anyway because he had the old spec spring, the same as Costa. But thankfully, they got on top of that issue, and yeah, they couldn't disqualify him this time. Couldn't find anything wrong with the car, couldn't find anything wrong with Pascal Verline's driving. It was just perfect, wasn't it? A great way for him to bounce back for the team overall, you know. It's a shame it's not Costa taking yet another victory, but it is still Porsche getting their just desserts with a stunning victory that was deserved. The Porsche car was good this weekend overall. It was just a shame that they couldn't get two cars up there either race, but as it was, this victory stands, and it's a great victory for Verline. Recovers his misfortunes of the first race, shall we say, although it was his own doing. But yeah, you know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? He's had a good race, it's a win. He's done well this race, but he needs to string these consistent results together again. There's no point being shunty in one race and then winning the next. He needs consistent. I'd sooner see him third every race than win, shunt, win, shunt. It's not going to work, is it? He's not going to win a championship that way, is he? But for Pascal Verline this race, it was perfect, wasn't it? He did really, really well. Got the fastest lap point as well, didn't he? Which is an extra crucial point to that championship campaign. And he is now joint leading in the championship, I believe, on 89 points, if I remember rightly. So he's doing a good job, tied with Jake Dennis. So yeah, overall, you know, he did a good job. He did a great drive. Okay, you could say he inherited the win on the last lap, just like teams inherited the victories and podiums yesterday. But yeah, that wasn't his fault that Nissan had an error with Roland, and he was there to pick up the pieces. It's a great drive by Pascal Verline, and for that reason, it's a perfect 10 to him for that. Great to see Porsche on top once again, and great to see them keeping the result that they richly deserved. Yeah, well done Verline. A solid race this race, but we could have been more consistent over the weekend. But for this race alone, it's a perfect 10 to Pascal Verline. Securing second place, we come to Jake Dennis in the Andretti. Once again, I think he qualified a little bit further down, didn't he? But he wasn't as down as 17th, 18th, wherever he was yesterday's race. This time around, he was much higher up or enough anyway. But nonetheless, he still gets on the podium, doesn't it? So if he can bang in a solid lap time in qualifying and get himself inside the top 5, a victory is all but guaranteed, judging by the pace and the efficiency of that Andretti. It's just he wastes a lot of energy coming through the field and then has to harvest it towards the end. So yeah, you know, Jake Dennis, again, formidable this race. It must be said he's driven really well. 2 second places in a row, let's not forget that. Yesterday's one was inherited onto the podium. This time around, he sort of inherited it on the last lap, but that's a mechanical failure, not things that happened after the race. So yeah, crossed the line a genuine P2 and deserved it. Once again, he's doing a stunning job and, as mentioned, tying in the championship with Pascal Verline at the moment on 89 points, I think it is. So it's still all to play for. And if Andretti and Dennis can get their 1 lap pace sorted out in qualifying, get themselves higher up the field, they're in for a lot better race result come the end of the race as well. So, you know, something to bear in mind, and I'm sure they'll be looking at it, especially for Monaco. We say it's difficult to overtake. This is Formula E. We've had some stunning races in Monaco next time out, so I'm sure next time won't be the same. But Monaco, where it's maybe slightly more crucial, needs to get up there. But Jake Dennis, it's 9.5 for me. I can't go anything else than that. He's done a great job once again. Really delivered the results, and yeah, I'm pleased for him. Genuinely pleased for him. He's doing well, and you know, we've had that bit of mid-season slump already, so to say, from Andretti at certain points, but he's back, he was on form, he was consistent, and he put himself in the positions to capitalise on anyone else's misfortune, and he takes away 2 P2s from it. Fantastic effort. 9.5 to Jake Dennis. And securing the final spot on the podium, it is, of course, Nick Cassidy. He rounds out the podium places, and he richly deserved that. Unfortunately, he decided to copy what Verline did in the first race, and he took his front wing off in that one as well, and cost himself points there. But here he is, securing a solid P3, keeping himself in the championship hunt. He's not too far behind, is he? He must be said, I think it's 78, 79, something like that. It's a lot of points left on offer when there's over half the races still left to go just. Yeah, but Nick Cassidy needs to be a little bit more consistent. We've seen a couple of mistakes from him this year so far, which is more than we've seen previously from him. Yesterday's race was silly. There was points went begging there easily, a podium easily as well, I would say, after all the ramifications after the race. But yeah, this time around, he's delivered a great job. He did a fantastic overtake on the last corner. Well, even on the last bit of straight, didn't he, on Nico Muller. After starting that final lap in P5, Olly Roland abandoned at the side of the road, stranded and left like a lone wolf. And then he obviously elevated himself up to P4 in that situation, and then coming around the final corner, stuck it up the inside of Nico Muller. Didn't look like he was going to get traction out the corner, but as it was, Nico Muller had to lift off just to get to the line, so he didn't go over his power usage, and it meant that Nick Cassidy, with just that little bit more percentage of power left, flew past him. And it was 0.05 of a second or something. It was crazy small, the margin at the end. But it went the way of Nick Cassidy in the Jaguar. So fantastic stuff for that. Again, a solid drive overall. And it's 9 points for him for that, because it was a great drive, a great effort. And great to see him pick up the pieces after what was a tough day yesterday. Dusted himself down and delivered a podium finish. 9 points to Nick Cassidy. As I am sure you're already aware, finishing in 4th place, it is, of course, Nico Muller, just getting pipped to the post there by Nick Cassidy. I've seen the Formula E website and everything go, oh, heartbreak moment for Nico Muller as he loses the podium on the final line. Like, yeah, okay, it's a little bit gutting for him, but the start of that lap P4 anyway. So had Olly Roland not broken down, there'd have still been P4, that had just dropped P5. So, yeah, okay, for all of half a lap, they were running P3, and yeah, it would have been brilliant seeing Nico Muller and apt on the podium. But as it was, some much-needed, hard-earned points. Look at how hard ERT went, with Dan Tinum securing 12 yesterday, making a massive gap over the rest of the field for that 9th place in the Constructors. They go and close it right back up again with Nico Muller's P4 finish here. So, yeah, although it's a bit of a shame that they just missed out, they would have sooner taken that P4 finish with Nico Muller being conservative about power usage just over the line than there would have been had Nico Muller crossed the line in P3, sprayed the bubbly, and then the Formula E paddock and the FIA go, oh, by the way, power overuse, get out. You know, and get chucked out and lose all those points. So Nico Muller has driven fantastic this weekend overall. It's a shame it didn't work out for him in the first race. Got gaggled up in the pack. He had a bit of damage as well, I found out, as with all the bunching and everything. This race, though, with the pack a little bit more fluid, yeah, we had the bunching scenarios, but because the race was 2 laps shorter, it meant that the peloton effect wasn't as drastic because they could use the power more efficiently and sooner. So yeah, he was staying around the podium positions quite happily throughout most of the race. And, you know, again, a solid qualifying inside the duels. Got himself into, was it a P4 start as well even? It might have been a P4 or P5 start from him. And then finishing the race in P4 as well. Not to be sniffed at for an apt Cupra with a Mahindra powertrain in the back of it, which is so inefficient. It must be said, Nico Muller is doing a stunning job this season and is keeping Apt's hopes alive of securing that elusive 9th place in the Constructors, because let's be honest, it's going to be a hard stretch for him to fight for anything more than that. But 12 points is a great effort, and it's 10 points to Nico Muller for that. Stunning job, stunning weekend overall, to be honest with you. And yeah, shame there wasn't more points from yesterday's race from him, but this race is more than made up for it with a perfect race overall. 10 to Nico Muller. Then we come to Sasha Fenestraz in the Nissan, and I am not sure what happened in this one at all for him, because I'm pretty sure he started the last lap 8th or 9th, and then here he is finishing 5th. Absolutely crazy, but it is good to see Sasha Fenestraz in 5th place, picking up 10 points for the Nissan team, especially when Olly Roland fell by the wayside on the final lap. They needed that cushion to at least score something. And this time, Fenestraz sort of delivered, didn't he? Sort of delivered. So there was a collision between Jean-Eric Verne and Max Gunter that was unseen on cameras, but again, I'm sure as soon as I upload this video, it'll be on YouTube. They laid the blame with Gunter for that one, so that elevated him 2 places anyway, and then of course Olly Roland falling by the wayside. So started the last lap of the race, lower half of the top 10, ended up in 5th, and a respectable 10 points picked up. Job done. Good effort. Well done. In fact, because Jake Hughes had a 5-second time penalty over the line, didn't he, and lost 5th. So he probably started the last lap 9th, and he's ended up 5th. Crazy, isn't it? Like I say, it's been one of those weekends with Formula E. You really can't keep up with it. But nonetheless, Sasha Fenestraz, yet a great finishing position, but had the last lap not been as chaotic as it was, it had just been picking up a couple of points, and that's unfortunate. So I'm giving him a fair score of 7.5 to Fenestraz because, yeah, he's inside the top 5, fantastic, but a lot went his way on that last lap to make his result look a little bit more flattering than his race actually was. So, yeah, overall, I'm pleased for him. Encouraging, boosting effort. He didn't get caught in the kerfuffles, but nonetheless, needs to be a little bit more on the pace with his teammate. But for now, 7.5 to Sasha Fenestraz. Securing 6th place, we come to Sergio Sette Camara. I was so gutted for him yesterday when he lost his P7 that he would have been a P6 result for due to power overuse as he caught his rear wheels caught on a curb and flicked up, and it meant that he did 353 kilometers per hour as the max limit as opposed to 350 that it should have been. So yeah, spun his wheels up and got a 50-second time penalty for it, dropping him outside the points, which were crucial points for ERT. But he delivers the goods again, doesn't he? Crosses the line P7, elevated to P6. What can we say about him, mate? What can we say about Sergio Sette Camara? He is having a wonderful season for ERT. This team that I was expecting were going to be really struggling and be behind both Mahindra powertrains because that ERT, well, it looked like the clear back marker from what we saw in testing. Both drivers often propping up the timesheets at Valencia test last and a number of seconds off the pace to the next team. So, yeah, I'm happy they've proved me wrong, and I'm happy Sergio Sette Camara has proved me wrong as well because I didn't really rate him at all last season. I was surprised that they kept him, but it seems a little bit of consistency, a little bit of, knowing he was going in for this season. It's been able to calm him down. He doesn't have to prove himself, and he's just going and delivering the goods absolutely stunningly. So, yeah, yesterday's race, a shame, but he did nothing wrong. And this race, once again, perfect positions, perfect opportunities, climbed in and got himself into good spots and good positions. Again, I'm aware he did a bit of like a Fenestraz and gained from other people's misfortune on that last lap, but to get that ERT into the points in a race that was 2 laps shorter in the least efficient car on the grid, let's not forget that. He did a great job to save the energy to then be able to attack at the end as well. So I think he started the last lap in 10th and here he is finishing 6th as a result of everything going on. But he was going to get a point anyway, and it's just desserts from yesterday. So yeah, Setchell Camera's perfect 10 from me. What a fantastic season he's having. One of my drivers of the season so far. I think he's going under the radar by a lot of people, but he is really delivering the goods for ERT, and they will be grateful to keep him. And I am grateful that they didn't take my advice in dropping him, because yeah, they'd have been regretting it, wouldn't they? But yeah, 10 points to Setchell Camera, a stunner. And then we come to Jean-Eric Vergne. It's just not his season, is it? When your luck's not in, your luck's not in, is it? Another P2 in qualifying, a great effort, and you'd thought, right, at least a podium from this one. But no, it just wasn't to be. Starting the last lap inside the top 6, I believe it was, he was fighting around with Maxi Gunter, and in an unknown incident, we've not seen it as of yet, but we will, I'm sure, soon. They laid the blame with Maxi Gunter, but it cost Vergne several positions, which were Sasha Fenestraz, Setchell Camera, and Jake Hughes, that then got a 5-second time penalty, so didn't really matter on that one. But yeah, he lost a couple of positions, and here he is finishing the race in P7. So it could have easily been inside the top 5 finish had it not been for the kerfuffle with Gunter. But yeah, overall, you know, a difficult race once again by him, and didn't look podium worthy, it must be said. But a top 5 finish would have been nice, but he just missed out due to a collision. Yeah, a shame. I've given him a solid 6, which I think is harsh by probably a point or 2 again there, to be fair, for Vergne. But it's just frustrating because I expect more from the DS Penske's. I don't expect him to be in these situations and scenarios where they're losing places because of collisions and kerfuffles. I expect him to be higher up the field now, fighting for the podiums and victories, where, you know, the racing's a little bit more sedate, shall we say, a little bit more at your pace and a little bit more gentle, because there's nothing risking. Whereas if you're fighting and squabbling over a few points down the back of the field, you'll throw everything at it on the last lap, you know. So yeah, Jean-Eric Vergne, an unfortunate weekend for him. Promised a lot more based on what the qualifying was. But yeah, 6th him for now. Again, probably harsh by a point or 2, but it's just frustrating, isn't it? Next up, we come to Jake Hughes after qualifying himself in pole position. So he gets 3 points for that at least. The race just didn't go his way at all, did it, unfortunately. Lost a heap of places in the peloton pack when he was trying to back up and save some energy. Tumbled round to the latter half of the top 10 at one point. I thought, oh Lord, what's happening here? Especially when the pace was picking up as well. You're like, well, you're never going to get him now. He managed to get himself inside the top 5 again, and then an incident at the turn 8, turn 9 chicane. He was being overtaken by Maxi Gunter, and it meant that Jake Hughes had to go down the escape road and bouncing through the gravel, etc., and actually stayed ahead of Maxi Gunter, and he should have relinquished that position, really. So yeah, but again, had he maybe relinquished that position, he'd been caught up in the incident that Gunter had with Jev. So you just don't know, do you, really? It's difficult to say, but nonetheless, a 5-second time penalty for that was justified. He shouldn't have cut the corner, and okay, if he did, he should have given the place to Maxi Gunter because he was more than a car alongside. He got the corner. So that was unfortunate for Jake. So he tumbles down here, you know, after finishing 5th. Should have been more though, shouldn't it? I've given him a solid 6 as well. Solid 6 to Jake Hughes. Frustrating season by McLaren so far. Promising so much but delivering so little at the moment. Just that one win for Sam Bird is the only flash of brilliance we had. And for Jake Hughes, his season is struggling, isn't it? It must be said. A bit like Sasha Fenestraz, really. A really, really strong debut, rookie debut. We're in that difficult second album period now, aren't we? Where, you know, you're trying to deliver on what you learnt last year, but it's just not working out. But yeah, nonetheless, a pole position, great effort. The race itself, it could have been more. 6 to Jake Hughes. And securing a 9th place after crossing the line in P10 when all was said and done with the penalties, it is Johan Daruvall, the first Indian driver to score points in Formula E since, of course, our very own Karun Chandhok. Yeah, what a fantastic effort by Johan Daruvall. I wasn't aware that he was actually taken out by De Vries during the first race, which is why he ended up tumbling so far down the order. So I was really harsh with his score yesterday because he was on the fringes of the top 10 at times. And this is exactly the same again. He was running around in that 11th, 12th area throughout most of it. And you think, come on, Johan, you can do this. And as it was, of course, crossed the line in P11, immediately elevated to P10 due to the 5-second time penalty for Degrassi, which was deserved for causing a collision. And then elevated himself up to P9 ahead of his teammate Maxi Gunter because he got himself a 5-second time penalty for the collision with Jev. So yeah, here he is, deserving of this. It'd have been a harsh for him to finish P11, and it's great that he finally benefited from other people's misfortunes because he has been having a lot of misfortune himself, it must be said. But yeah, nonetheless, Johan Daruvall, great great to see him in the points. 2 races back-to-back. I said he can build on the consistency now because he's at Formula E thick and fast, isn't he? Not these big gaps anymore. The 2 weeks, every 2 weeks there's a race or a double header. You know, it's coming thick and fast and he can learn in that environment where it's all still fresh in his mind. Doing a great job so far. It's 9 points to Johan Daruvall, the only official rookie on the grid, and he's scored some points. I'm pleased for him for that. And he deserved them as well after a great drive and keeping himself out of trouble. 9 to Johan Daruvall. Securing the final points pay position, we come to Sam Bird in the second of the McLarens. Crossing the line in P12, elevated himself to P11 because of Degrassi's penalty, and then Gunter's penalty elevated him back into P10. Now, it was Degrassi that punted him off, so that was a deserved 5 seconds, that, because, yeah, it'd been harsh for Degrassi to score points and Bird not. It wasn't Bird's fault at all. Where the attack mode corner was, Degrassi just stuffed it up the inside, tagged him, and that caused his rear wheels to spin up, and he shot himself off into the gravel. Came back on. He had an unfortunate spin as well whilst trying to get back through the pack again. He spun against a Maserati, so that must have been Johan Daruvall, mustn't it? But that was his own doing, but I'll let him off with that. Frustration gets the better of you at times. Qualified himself P5, I think it was. That was strong, decent, respectable. And in the race, again, he was running around inside the bottom half of the top 10 where you think, oh, go forward a little bit, go forward, the pace is picking up. And then got tagged by Degrassi, which was unfortunate. So I've given him the same score as his teammate. A solid 6. I think that's a great recovery drive to be where he was, getting punted off, in through the gravel, down at the back, then having a spin again, and was miles behind at that point as well. To recover to a point, okay, might be because of other people's penalties, but one of those penalties was for the car that punted you off, so that 5-second time penalty was fully deserved by Degrassi. And yeah, it's 6-2 Sam Bird. Finishing in 11th place and just outside the points after his 5-second time penalty was applied, it is Lucas Degrassi. And there we have it. A Lotterer of the Week to Lucas Degrassi for the simple fact he's cost his team points this race. You know, he didn't have to make that clumsy move that he did on Sam Bird. Cost Sam Bird's race as well. He was lucky to get inside the points in the end there. It was only thanks to Sam Bird's excellent recovery drive that he could do that. And I'm afraid to say Degrassi has been incredibly frustrating this season, and this is why. He's becoming a bit of a shunt monster, isn't he? He's becoming a bit of a shunter, a bit of a desperate diver, a late lunger, whatever you want to call it, and he's just not working out most of the time. And here we have a silly, lazy look up the inside that had a lot of ambition, but not really any skill behind it. I could have lunged like that and punted someone off. It's not difficult to do that. And yeah, unfortunately, he deserves the 5-second time penalty. He would have ended up finishing himself in P9 there with the other penalties that followed. So he could have picked up a good couple of points for apt and got himself a good couple of points in a row after pretty much a pointless exercise of the season so far. But as it was, he cost himself and he cost the team due to a clumsy incident, which is a shame. It's a shame. So yeah, Lotterer of the Week to Lucas Degrassi. Unfortunately, it's not going his way, is it? Then we come to Maxi Gunter in the Maserati. The first time this season he finishes outside the points and was the last driver in the field to score points at every race so far. Pascal Verline knocking his front wing off last time in yesterday's race meant that Gunter scoring points there, he became the sole remaining driver. But as it was, crossing the line in P9, and unfortunately dropped himself down the order because of a 5-second time penalty with John-Eric Verne. Now, to me, I don't know what happened. Again, I've not seen it. It's an unseen incident as at the time of recording, and probably by the time we upload, there'll be footage of it. But it seems a little bit strange to me that John-Eric Verne didn't lose. Well, he did lose out. He lost out 3 places, but only ended up losing 2 because of Jake's time penalty. But Gunter seemed to be the biggest loser of the incident overall, so I think 5 seconds might have been harsh because he was still behind Jev after whatever incident occurred. So yeah, it seems a little bit harsh to me, but nonetheless, he caused an incident, the other car lost places, so that's a 5-second time penalty, fair enough, I guess. Shame because Maserati, of course, was celebrating their first double points finish of the season, but as it was, he had it taken away from him and finishes here in P12. I've given him a solid 6 for Gunter. Don't want to be too overly harsh on him for that. I think it was a struggle race as it was. Wasn't as impressive as yesterday's race. And that's maybe what caused a little bit of desperation with Jev's lunge that he did on him. If it was a lunge, I don't know. I've not seen the footage. But yeah, for now, it's 6 points to Gunter. It's a shame to see his runner points finishes end due to a 5-second time penalty as well after finishing inside the points. But maybe a little bit of frustration set in that his race had not gone quite the way he planned it. But for now, 6 points. It's been a great season. He's still very much inside the championship hunt. Finishing an unlucky for some, it is, of course, Edoardo Mortara in the Mahindra. And, of course, it had to be Mortara finishing in the unlucky for some, didn't it? Yeah, Abt seemed to have got on top of the Mahindra powertrain again like they did last season, but this time around it's just not happening, is it? The Mahindra team themselves can't get around their own powertrain, it seems. The efficiency issues, there's just a lot going on at the moment, isn't there? None of it's good. Mortara did the most he could with the equipment he'd been given once again this weekend. Last race was an absolute bust yesterday, but today at least he could qualify, at least he could race, and he finishes in 13th. He's higher than his teammate. It's a shame it's not points, but we keep saying this every single race, don't we? And I do honestly believe that Mortara is getting the most out of the car that he possibly can do. It's just the efficiency that's costing him, and that's a shame. So it's a solid 7 to Mortara for that. I don't think I can give him any more or any less than that. He's not done anything wrong. The Mahindras are just very anonymous at the moment, and it's frustrating to see him so far down the order so often. In a chaotic race this weekend with the pair of them, where there's been penalties, disqualifications, penalties within qualifying, and none of it's helping. You know, they're not the ones getting the penalties, just none of it's helping. It's a big, big shame. So yeah, 7 to Mortara. I hope something comes good for him at Monaco. Next up it is, of course, Dan Tinum. After praising him so much yesterday, after a stunning P4 effort in the race, he's back to P nowhere once again, isn't it? And his teammate Sete Camara is inside the points again, getting a big chunk of them. A big chunk of points in today's race. And Dan Tinkton not up there to match him. It's frustrating, it really, really is. It's a simple 3 to Dan Tinkton for that. Nothing in special or impressive by him this race, unfortunately. What can you do? What can you do? I don't understand where all that pace that he had yesterday went, because you could say, okay, well, it's 2 laps less, the car's not as efficient. Yeah, fair enough, I'd understand that if Sete Camara was down here as well, but Sete Camara crossed the line P7, elevated to P6, he was well inside the points. He didn't even pick up a lucky point at the end of the race. He was well inside them. So yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, there you go. That's life. Dan Tinkton, we've had one good race. Is that all we're going to see of him this season? I hope not, but at the minute, no idea. 3 to Dan Tinkton. Then we come to Nick De Vries in the second Mahindra, and again, it's a shame, isn't it? It really is a shame. But once again, it's Mortara out-qualifying, out-racing him. It's not a good look, is it? And now Johan Daruvall, the only official rookie this season, scores points before Nick De Vries does, who, okay, in fairness, I sort of classed him as a Gen 3 rookie, but come on. Come on. It's a shame. It's 1. I've given him 1, and he needs to thank me for that, because De Vries, unfortunately, is just not delivering the goods at the moment. And, you know, at the end of the day, we know the Mahindra powertrain is probably the least efficient on the grid, but at least match your teammate. At least match your teammate. That's all we ask of you. That's all we need from you. But unfortunately, it's just not happening at the moment, is it? It's a frustrating one, and a lot of head scratching, I'm sure, going on at Mahindra at the moment. But yeah, for De Vries, it's a solitary 1. Once again, out-qualified, out-raced, outpaced by his teammate. He needs to close the gap. If he's got any chance of standing for a point or 2 this season at some point, he's got to be with his teammate to do it. 1 to De Vries. Then we come to Norman Natto in the Andretti, and an unfortunate bump into the back of, was it one of the Penskes? I'm not sure, but either way, it was contact nonetheless. And yeah, broke his front wing, unfortunately. And that's that, really, I'm afraid to say. Had to pit for the wing, and that's your race ruined. So Norman Natto gets 2. It was all the bunching in the peloton once again. A shame. Just unfortunate. 2 to Norman Natto. Then we come to Antonio Felix da Costa in the Porsche. Had a lap time good enough to get into the duels, didn't we, this time? But the FIA said no, 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 track limits. Track limits. At a circuit that saw no track limit penalties in yesterday's race, or qualifying, or free practice, or anything of the sort, we just simply had 2 track limits infringements in today's race. And yeah, one of those were for Nick Cassidy, track limits at the final corner, that they disallowed his lap time, even though it was a slow lap anyway, and then that meant that they could get the Porsche. I'm not impressed. You know, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but it's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not happy with it at all. There's a circuit there where cars are flying here, there and everywhere and driving anywhere bar the track at times at certain corners, and we managed to find 2 laps to disallow in qualifying, one of which was Nick Cassidy's slow lap that didn't matter anyway. And it's clear that you knew what Costa was doing in terms of how he was using the track at the final corner to then make it fit. That's what I think's happened there. So yeah, I'm calling bullshit. Maybe a conspiracy theory, I don't know, but no one else's lap times were deleted, and it's just funny how there was only 2, and one of them was Costa. I'm just putting two and two together there. But for Antonio Felix da Costa, the race itself, got himself up into 12th place and then caught the back of an Andretti, was it? Or was it a McLaren? It was a McLaren he tagged the back of. Same style as Norman Natto, just a slight bump as there was a bit of bunching ahead. And it was the slightest tap that just broke the wing, and it's just a shame. So again, well down the order, and then he was about to get lapped, so he pulled into the pits towards the latter stage of the race to get well out of that gaggle, which I thought was smart driving. Da Costa, I'm giving him a perfect 10. I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks about that, because I think bullshittery in qualifying once again saw him start at the back of the grid when he didn't deserve to. He was inside the jewels and had in a good enough lap time to do so. That could have transformed his race easily, but, you know, that's life, isn't it? And, yeah, I'm giving him just for the simple sympathy of the fact that he's been done by this weekend overall by the FIA, and I don't approve of it. So, yeah, perfect 10 to Da Costa. Was it a perfect 10 race this race? Well, probably not, no. But he should have been higher up the grid. Bullshit. 10 to Da Costa. Then we come to the first official retirement on this list, and my oh my, it's Olly Roland. Oh my god. Oh no, Olly Roland, what happened? Found out no official explanation as to what happened at the moment, but Nissan thought that car had more power in it than it actually did. So, yeah, I mean, it was looking tight on margins, wasn't it? He had like 10% left with 2.5 laps to go, and the car were using 3.5% a lap, so 7, and there's half a lap there, so like 9% maybe. Got 1% left in the tank, I'm sure. If you need to attack, you've got that little bit more, but other teams behind had 4 and 5% more. That's from what we saw on the rundown grid, like in that box there that comes up. So you think, okay, it's tight, but it's doable. No one was concerned going into the final lap, and everyone was just looking at it going, oh yeah, everything's fine. Look, he's pulled another 6/10 out on that last lap. It's his for the taking. And then we get to turn 4, and there's a conked out Nissan sat at the side of the track. Like, oh my God, what's happened there? And he came over the radio and he says, like, what's happened, guys? What's happening? We don't know. We're checking. Well, is the same happening to Sasha? No, Sasha's fine. So why haven't you used, like, why are mine wrong? Well, we don't know, but according to our screens, you've got the power. Like, it was weird how obviously they were confused about whether there were any added laps due to the safety car and things like that. I'm like, no added laps. What a bizarre incident, whereas a miscalculation in a race that had no added laps and did have a brief safety car period in it, so you'd have thought that would have only helped the power, because obviously they didn't use that for half a lap or whatever, however long the safety car was out for, and they didn't have the added laps on the end, so it was weird. They should have had a lot more in the tank, like the other cars had behind, than what Olly Roland did. So some software issue or software problem, but even Roland was like, I relay the crypto, as he called it. I relay the crypto back to you. And they just said, yeah, we don't know. So very, very strange incident. So Olly Roland, an unfortunate, a DNFer, and he can only get a maximum of 5 points. So that is what Olly Roland is getting, a maximum of 5 points to me for him, because it was just an unfortunate race overall. It should have been so much more, shouldn't it? Should have been so much more. That last lap looked like he got it in the bag. He was a good 1.5, 2 seconds ahead of Verline, and he just got it sussed. But then that was it, out of power, out of juice. Computer says no. Gutting, absolutely gutting. Olly Roland, after doing such a wonderful performance for the last few races, looked like he was on course for yet another podium and 2 victories in a row. Unfortunately, other things said otherwise. 5-2, Olly Roland. Then we come to Mitch Evans, who has another difficult race in the Jaguar. Unfortunately, the car conked out about, just over half race distance. Lost a lot of time, but managed to reset and get the car going again, but that was it. Damage was done. Race was over. It's a middle of the road 5 to him for that. That's as good as it's going to get, unfortunately. Can't do any better than that. He retired in the end as well, of course. But yeah, I think it was more for safety reasons. Just basically save the car, save the engine, you know. But yeah, save the car basically. So yeah, middle of the road 5, maximum he can get as a retirement, unfortunately for Mitch Evans. Just one of those things, a shame to see. But that happens sometimes in Formula E, doesn't it? Then we come to Stoffel Vandor. And there we have it, Lotterer of the Week to Stoffel Vandor. And some people are going to say that that's harsh because he got caught up with Norman Natto when he had his damage. He came around the turn 4 area and was running wide, and Vandor for some reason decided he was going to try and go around the outside of Natto and bumped into the back of him and broke his own front wing off as well. So yeah, that in that situation is just a miscommunication between drivers, but everyone else was quite happily overtaking him. This Lotterer of the Week to Vandor is just out of sheer frustration of how bad his season has been. You know, for one reason and another, the general lack of pace. I think it's culminated from several races this season to the point where he's got to get another Lotterer. It's just not good enough, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not necessarily just for this sole race on its own, but it's just for the fact that over again the last few races, he's just not been on par with his teammate. Disappointing, rarely scoring points. Needs to do better. So yeah, Lotterer of the Week to Vandor. Not just for this race, it's a culmination of everything, but still, frustration nonetheless. And then we come to the two Envisions. I'm going to talk about them together because it's Buemi and it's Robin Freitz. Now, Buemi retired due to damage on his car, and Robin Freitz, of course, we saw caused the early safety car at the start because he got lunged up the inside by Sam Bird. The Costa was on his outside, and then he got arse-ended by a Mahindra as well for good measure. Broke his front suspension, put the wing under the wheel that was only working. So this one that was then broken was like, wouldn't turn. The wheel that would turn had a wing underneath it. He just drove straight off into the gravel. So yeah, very unfortunate for Robin Freitz. As for Buemi, had contact that we didn't see on screen, I don't think. If we did, I forgot about it. But again, that chaotic the race. And Envision, here they are, double DNF. The only two drivers that are DNF for quite a number of laps in that race as well. They were out early, both drivers. So Envision walk away from a double header with no points. It's ridiculous, isn't it? They're getting 3 each. 3 to Buemi, 3 to Robin Freitz. Not really much more I can say about it for them. Neither of them really at fault for this race in particular. But again, just frustration. What's happening? What's happening to them? Why are they not getting the look? Why are they not having the pace? Oh, I don't know. 3 to Buemi, 3 to Freitz, and that's that done with. That's the race over. So there we have it then, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the Misano round number 2 E-Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated standings with the scores I've just awarded are on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is. And yeah, did you expect him to go up or down based on what I have scored? Do you think I've scored drivers fairly? Were the Lotterers fair? Let me know. And what do you think again in this race to the penalties that unfolded in the qualifying session once again, and also in the race itself? Do you agree with the time penalties that were given out to the drivers they were given out to? A massive thanks as always goes out to Dan Bartlett, formerly of Mushy Gaming, for providing me with the scoreboard that you see on the screen. Without him, this series will be more pointless than it already is. So I will see you all again in a couple of weeks' time for the Monaco E-Prix. Looking forward to that one. It provides a good race, doesn't it, Monaco, usually for Formula E, and I'm sure this race will be no exception. If you can't wait till then of course it's Formula 1 this week. So next week, next Monday at 6 PM, it will be the Cruel Room for the Formula 1 of the Chinese Grand Prix. First time back there in 5 years, and got a sprint race with it as well. So yeah, if you fancy your Formula 1 stuff, come join me for that. But if not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for Monaco. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, much love.